The meeting room aboard the Galactic Council's flagship Harmony fell silent as the human ambassador stood. Tom Smith was unremarkable by human standards: average height, brown hair, and the standard diplomatic uniform. To the assembled aliens, however, he was a nightmare made flesh. "Distinguished representatives," Tom began, his voice steady despite the tension. "For 50 years, humanity has played by your rules. We've limited our expansion. We've moderated our technology. We've even restricted our reproduction rates." He paused, letting his gaze sweep across the chamber. "But today that ends." The Exilian representative's tentacles writhed in distress. "Ambassador Smith, surely we can discuss." "There's nothing to discuss," Tom interrupted. 3 days ago, the colony on New Terra was quarantined by Council forces due to a biological hazard. That hazard was a human child with chickenpox. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Droll representative, a 12-foot insectoid, clicked her mandibles nervously. "The protocols are clear. 30,000 colonists," Tom continued as if she hadn't spoken, "including 8,000 children, are now without medical supplies because your quarantine ships are afraid to get too close to our Deathworld biology." The term Deathworlder had been applied to humans since first contact. Earth, with its high gravity, extreme temperature variations, diverse biosphere, and periodic natural disasters, had forged humanity into something the galaxy found terrifying. Admiral Reed of Earth Fleet sat beside Tom, her weathered face impassive. At 63, she had been among the first humans to venture beyond the solar system. Now, she watched as decades of careful diplomacy unraveled. "The quarantine is temporary," the Praxi diplomat offered, his blue skin flushing purple with anxiety. Once the child's illness runs its course." Tom's voice remained even, which somehow made it more threatening. "We've transmitted the complete medical database on varicella-zoster virus. Your xenobiologist confirmed it poses zero threat to non-human life." Admiral Reed placed a small device on the table. It projected a hologram showing the New Terra colony surrounded by Council ships. "This isn't about safety," she said. "It's about control." The Council had never been comfortable with humans. Despite their technological head start, many alien species found themselves outpaced by human innovation within a decade of first contact. Human adaptability seemed almost supernatural to species that had evolved in more stable environments. "The Council moves to table this discussion pending further," began the Exilian chairperson. "No," Tom said simply. "You misunderstand. This isn't a negotiation or a request. This is notification." With a nod from Tom, Admiral Reed activated a second projection. Throughout Council space, red dots appeared, hundreds of them. "These are human ships," she explained. "Some are military, but most are civilian vessels we've quietly upgraded over the past decade." The Droll representative rose to her full height. "This is an act of war." "No," Admiral Reed corrected. "This is humans being humans. Each vessel has received instructions to break quarantine around New Terra and deliver medical supplies. If intercepted, they will defend themselves." The implication hung heavy in the air. For years, humans had held back in combat simulations, pretending to be slower and weaker than they were. The Council races believed their superior numbers would prevail in any conflict. None of them had ever fought a species evolved to thrive on conflict. "You would risk galactic war for one colony?" asked the Praxi, incredulous. Tom smiled for the first time. "We would risk it for one human. That's what you've never understood about us." The Exilian chairperson's skin paled. "What are your demands?" "The immediate lifting of all quarantines on human settlements. Recognition of human medical authority over human biology. A seat on the Council's executive committee," Tom said. "Impossible," hissed the Droll. "The committee is reserved for founding species." Admiral Reed tapped another control. The hologram shifted to show Earth's defense grid activating, a network of satellites and stations that had been officially classified as research outposts. "Let me tell you what happens next," she said quietly. "Either the quarantine ends, or we end it. Either humans get a voice in how the galaxy is run, or we stop listening to your voices altogether." A hush fell over the chamber. The council representatives looked at each other in dawning horror as they realized what had been hiding in plain sight all along. Humans hadn't been tamed. They'd been patient. The Zillion chairperson broke the silence. This aggression will not. It's not aggression, Tom interrupted. It's parenthood. When our children are threatened, there are no limits to what we'll do. He sat down and waited as the council representatives huddled together, whispering frantically. 5 minutes later, the Zillion approached with a data tablet. The quarantine will be lifted, she said stiffly. The other matters require formal procedure, but... She hesitated. Procedures can be expedited. Tom nodded and accepted the tablet. As the meeting adjourned, Admiral Reed leaned close. Do you think they understand now? She asked. Tom watched the aliens file out, their movements quick and anxious. They're beginning to. They've spent millennia creating a galactic society based on consensus and caution. We're the first species they've encountered who evolved by overcoming rather than avoiding threats. And if they had refused, Tom's expression hardened, that they would have learned why Earth is called a Deathworld and why its children are the most dangerous force in the universe. Outside the viewport, the stars continued their silent watch as humanity stopped pretending to be tamed.